Good morning, I'm Craig DeGrelli. It's Thursday, October 24th, 2024, and these are your Unbiased Updates. The presidential campaign takes a hard-hitting turn. The name-calling and labeling between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris over a former White House chief of staff's comments and where the campaign heads next. And rejected. A majority of workers at Boeing are not impressed with the company's latest offer. The pay raise they said no to, the key sticking point, and what happens from here.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
This morning, with just 12 days to go until Election Day, a major topic of discussion between the two presidential candidates are the comments made by John Kelly, the retired four-star Marine general and former White House chief of staff in the Trump administration. In an interview with the New York Times published this week, Kelly, who has been outspoken in the past about his former boss, is asked if he believes Donald Trump is a fascist.
Certainly an authoritarian and admires people who are dictators. He has said that. So he certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, for sure.
Along with that statement, Kelly also confirmed reports that Trump at times would speak positively about Adolf Hitler. Democratic nominee Vice President Kamala Harris seized on Kelly's comments, speaking to reporters Wednesday outside the vice president's residence in Washington, to once again lay out her warning to voters about another Trump presidency.
All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is. From the people who know him best, Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions.
The statements made by Kelly came up again later during a CNN town hall with Harris near Philadelphia.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted.
Harris saying Kelly likely chose now to speak out to put out, quote, a 911 call to the American people. The former president responded to Kelly's comments through a lengthy post on Truth Social, writing in part about his former chief of staff. This guy had two qualities which don't work well together. He was tough and dumb. Even though I shouldn't be wasting my time with him, I always feel it's necessary to hit back in pursuit of the truth. John Kelly is a lowlife and a bad general whose advice in the White House I no longer sought and told him to move on, end quote. Donald Trump later took to Truth Social to react to Kamala Harris and say it is the vice president who is a threat, writing, quote, she is increasingly raising her rhetoric, going so far as to call me Adolf Hitler and anything else that comes to her warped mind. She is a threat to democracy and not fit to be president of the United States. Trump himself took part in a rally in Georgia Wednesday, joined by country singer Jason Aldean, former presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy, and former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. The former president told Georgians to get out and vote.
This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of incompetence, failure, and disaster, or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. After all the catastrophes she has caused, Kamala Harris can't say one thing that you'd do differently. You saw that? What would you do differently? I can't think of anything.
And it was announced that next Tuesday, Vice President Harris will deliver her, quote, closing argument speech at the Ellipse outside the White House, the same site where former President Trump spoke before the January 6th riots on the Capitol. Later today, Harris will be campaigning in Georgia, while Trump heads west to the swing states of Arizona and Nevada. And some big developments out of 2 battleground states. In Pennsylvania, the state Supreme Court said voters should be able to cast provisional ballots in person at their polling locations if their mail-in ballots are rejected. Provisional voting happens when questions are raised over a person's eligibility to vote, which in this case would be triggered by a person's mail ballot being rejected over defects. While this ruling opens the door to potentially give thousands of Pennsylvanians the chance to still vote, even if their mail-in ballots are flawed, it's not clear if the ruling will have that impact. That's because only about 2/3 of Pennsylvania counties notify mail voters ahead of Election Day if there is an error. A separate case before the state Supreme Court seeks to make that a statewide standard. On Tuesday, Pennsylvania election officials announced more than 1 million people had already cast their ballot by mail. In Georgia, the Secretary of State's office says it fended off a cyber attack aimed at crashing the state's absentee voting website. Secretary of State Brad Ravensburger said Wednesday that his office noticed a spike in attempts to access the site early last week. He said there were more than 420,000 attempts made from around the world. Georgia elections officials say it was an unsuccessful, coordinated attempt to make the website crash, possibly a foreign country trying to interfere with the election. One Atlanta news station reported last week more than 200,000 Georgians had requested absentee ballots for this election. Thousands of Boeing employees will continue to strike after union members rejected the new labor deal offered by the company Wednesday. 64% of the members of the International Association of Machinists voted against the deal, which would have seen wages go up by 35% over 4 years, with an immediate 12% raise. Before Wednesday's vote, Boeing warned it would continue to burn cash through 2025 and reported a $6 billion quarterly loss, its largest since 2020. The strike, which began on September 13th, is costing the company about $1 billion a month. The biggest sticking point for union members is the lack of a traditional pension plan. In 2014, union members narrowly voted to give up the pension after the company threatened to build the 737 MAX and 777X planes at non-union facilities. It's a move that many members still resent a decade later.
Well, they get their pension, don't they? CEOs get $100 million worth of stock options when they retire. It's costing them billions a month. It's costing me thousands. How do you like it? You've been costing me thousands for 10 years. No wage increases, 1%, COLAs of 1 cent, and then working 2 weekends, 3 weekends straight, no life balance. I feel sorry for the young people. I've spent my life here, and I'm getting ready to go. But they deserve a pension, and I deserve an increase.
Boeing's new CEO, Kelly Ortberg, has said reaching a deal with machinists is a priority in order to get the company back on track after years of safety and quality problems. Earlier this month, he announced Boeing will cut 10% of its global workforce, which is about 17,000 jobs. Across the world, we are learning more about a deadly attack on a Turkish aerospace company. If you have the Straight Arrow News app, you were alerted to this story as it unfolded yesterday. Now we've learned at least 5 people were killed and nearly 24 hurt in what's being called a terror attack. Turkey's interior minister says the attackers, a man and a woman, were killed in the ambush on the Turkish aerospace industry's headquarters near the capital of Ankara. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack so far. However, when asked, Turkey's defense minister said the militant Kurdistan Workers' Party, known as PKK, could be behind it. The PKK is classified as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the United States, and the European Union. At least 26 people are dead after a tropical storm unleashed torrential rain onto the Philippines, leading to widespread flooding and landslides. Officials saying most of the deaths were due to drowning. The storm made landfall on the northeastern coast, forcing more than 150,000 people to evacuate, with the government ordering schools and businesses to close. Along with the heavy rainfall, the storm is also bringing strong winds and a dangerous storm surge to the region. 3 NASA astronauts and 1 Russian cosmonaut have now departed the International Space Station after an extended 235-day mission. The Crew 8 team arrived on the ISS in March and was originally scheduled to return to Earth in September, but their return was delayed due to the issues concerning the Boeing Starliner capsule and making sure those astronauts had a way back home. Once a new vehicle arrived on the space station, the Crew 8 members then had to wait out hurricanes impacting Florida before getting the go-ahead. After around 34 hours, the 4-person team is expected to splash down on Friday afternoon off the Florida coast in the Gulf of Mexico. And as we say here on Earth, safe travels. Those are your unbiased updates for this Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.